evening. We're reporting live from our studio in Montclair, New Jersey. I'm Melissa Fries.
I'm Dave Vallejo.
I'm Andres Lima.
In our first story, there's something hot brewing in Colombia, and I'm not just talking about the coffee. After 50 years of clashing peace talks between the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, also known as FARC, and the Colombian government have gone awry after the recent kidnappings of several police officers and soldiers. During a peace meeting with FARC in Cuba, the city of Milan erupted in gunfire. FARC attempted to seize the city but were repelled by dozens of government troops. This has been, by far, the deadliest clash between them this year. In political news in Latin America, newly declassified documents from the U.S. National Security Archive show that the late Chilean military leader Augusto Pinochet wanted to hold on to power when he lost a referendum on his rule in 1988. They say he sought the support of his closest military allies to overthrow the results, but they refused, and so General Pinochet had to accept the defeat. In Cuba, Raul Castro has announced that he will step down as Cuba's president in 2018, following a final 5-year term, for the first time putting a date on the end of the Castro era. He tapped rising star Miguel Díaz-Canel as his top lieutenant and first in the line of succession. The 81-year-old Castro also said he hopes to establish 2 term limits and age caps for political offices, including the presidency. This is an astonishing prospect for a nation led by Castro and his older brother Fidel since their 1959 revolution. In Paraguay, controversial Paraguayan president candidate Lino Oviedo, a former army chief who led a failed coup in 1996, has died in a helicopter accident. Authorities say Lino Oviedo and 2 others died when their copter went down in a storm Saturday in northern Paraguay. Despite the report of a severe weather storm, some Oviedo supporters called the crash suspicious. Oviedo, 69, was running with the opposition UNIS party. UNIS has yet to decide what steps the party will take in the presidential campaign. According to the latest polls, the 2 leading presidential candidates are Efrain Allegro of the Liberal Party and Horacio Carretes of the Colorado Party. Venezuela is devaluing its currency by 32% against the dollar on the orders of President Hugo Chavez, in part to reduce the country's budget deficit. The bolivar will go from 4.3 to the dollar to 6.3 at the official exchange rate. The move was announced by the Planning and Finance Minister, who said it will take effect this week. The goal is to minimize expenditure and maximize results, he said. One effect of a devaluation is to make a country's exports cheaper and thus more enticing to buyers. But another effect is to cut the deficit, which in Venezuela last year was estimated to be nearly 10% of the GDP. Venezuela is South America's largest oil exporter and has the world's largest proven reserves. Its oil transactions are dollar-denominated, so the bolivar value of those sales will now be higher, boosting state revenues on paper. This is Venezuela's 5th currency devaluation in a decade. And now we'll go to our correspondent Rosana Gallegos reporting live in Venezuela.
Since his last public appearance a few months ago, everyone in Venezuela and most of the world, in fact, have been left to wonder what happened to President Hugo Chavez. With Chavez away, the country's currency has been devalued. The vice president has stepped up to plate, while many of the president's followers, also known as Chavistas, have been supporting him through rallies and prayers for his well-being. With Chavez being back to take control, there has yet to be a public appearance and has caused many to question the government. These have been a couple of suspenseful months in Venezuela, and many doubt that Chavez will be able to lead the country once again. All we can do is hope for his speedy recovery. Reporting from Caracas, Venezuela, this is Rosana Gallegos. Back to you in the studio.
There have been a string of unfortunate events that have recently occurred in Latin America. First of all, what started out to be a band's rousing stunt at a nightclub called Kiss in Santa Maria, Brazil, soon turned into a terrible tragedy that left at least 233 dead. It was a scene of fire, smoke, and numerous health workers rushing victims to hospitals all throughout the city. As the fire died down, rescue workers found many bodies in the bathrooms of nearby exits, many of who thought it was an alternate way out. It is not certain how the fire was started. However, this disaster is ranked among one of the deadliest nightclub fires ever. What started off as a joyous rally to support the re-election of Rafael Correa quickly turned ugly when a man went on a violent stabbing spree before being apprehended by the National Police Force. Correa has suspended his political acts for the campaign and has returned to the city of Esmeraldas. The presidential vote will start February 15. So in Chile, Chilean officials are investigating the death of thousands of prawns that washed ashore on Wednesday, covering the beach in red. The dead shrimp appeared in Coronel, 330 miles south of the capital, Santiago. Local fishermen say the Bocamina plants owned by the regional power generator Endesa and the Santa Maria plant that are controlled by the Chilean power company Columbon have heated the waters, endangering their livelihood. Prosecutors for environmental crimes are going to be collecting as much evidence as possible to determine if this environmental issue is a crime. An official at Columbon denied to comment, and a spokesman for Edesna said the company was aware of the issue and would issue a statement later on. Some protests against the project have actually turned very violent. In Guatemala, survivors of Guatemala's bloody civil war relieved the massacre of their relatives as they testified against former dictator Efren Rios Montt, who was accused of overseeing genocide during the 36-year conflict. Rios, the first ex-head of the state, will stand trial for crimes against humanity in his own country. Although he was not prosecuted for years for the alleged atrocities committed during his 1982 to 1983 rule, because of his protected status as congressman, he is ordered to face trial by a judge who found sufficient evidence linking him to killing more than 1,700 indigenous people and a counterinsurgency plan executed under his command. Prosecutors allied with Rios turned a blind eye as soldiers used rape, torture, and arson against leftist insurgents and targeted indigenous members of Maya Ixo group. Meanwhile, in Mexico, 6 suspects were arrested and accused of raping a group of Spanish tourists on a Mexican resort city known as Acapulco. Authorities said hooded gunmen stormed into a beach bungalow in the Pacific port of Acapulco and attacked a group of Spanish tourists, raping 6 women and tying up a group of men with cell phone cables and bikini straps. The men confessed to the crime and were taken in. However, investigators have not yet determined whether the suspects arrested are part of the gang. Now we will go live to James De La Cruz talking about recent news in Mexico.
Thank you, Andres. At the Basilica of St. Guadalupe, there's a government tent that is starting a Cash for Guns program. They have currently accepted guns, from muskets to hand grenades. This all started due to an incident when a 10-year-old kid was struck and killed by a bullet that was randomly shot in the air. The only gun store in Mexico is currently owned by the Army. Recently in Cancun, 7 were found dead in a residential bar. The motive for the murders is still under investigation, but we do know that some of the individuals were actually members of the taxi union. The rise in violence has gotten so bad that left 9 officers dead in an ambush. This has been all in response to Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto's campaign against violence, with his $9 billion budget invested in 250 of the most violent cities. This included extended school days, drug addiction programs, and public works projects. Violence has gotten so bad that citizens are now trying to form their own police force. Because of this police force, there has been many questions because although they want to protect their towns and loved ones from the very evils that they are trying to fight against, there's great potential for them to be used by the very gangs that they want to fight against. They are currently armed with machetes, single-shot rifles, and shotguns. So, reporting live from Mexico City, back to you at the studios.
Keeping an eye on immigration for these young individuals who want to be legalized in this country and get an education, Republican Joaquin Castro is seeking ways to legalize immigrants in this country. He wants to help the DREAM organization and help them accomplish their goals to get an education and a future. Castro says he is going to keep the immigration debate wide open with his eyes. Speaking of debate, the debate for immigration bill continues as President Obama predicts and is confident the immigration bill will pass. Obama has spoken with Spanish channel Telemundo and told them he is optimistic for the bill to pass. Obama has plans to have an early trip in May to Mexico and Central America to discuss more of this compromise. The country today faces 11 million illegal immigrants. Democratic and Republican parties continue to debate their opinions on how this legislation of immigrants should work. Republican Joaquin Castro had a few words to say about the legalization immigration, commenting that before an immigrant can have a full citizenship, she will be forced to learn English and pay fines and taxes. As for immigrants in Arizona, problems are still rising. Immigrants who are eager to vote won't be able to due to the law that passed in 2004. They are required to have a driver license, a passport, date of birth, tribal, and other documents. While Arizona has passed this law, other states as well are looking into passing this law, including Alabama, Georgia, and Kansas. It's been a difficult time for the immigrant community. In time, hopefully, things become better for everyone. And now we go live to Karina with a special report from Lima, Peru.
Thank you, David. Right now I am at the scene where hundreds of minor earthquakes occurred in just a couple of days. Earthquakes have shaken the earth around the Sabancaya volcano. Authorities say residents were asked to evacuate the area, while some did evacuate due to the damage done to their home. In other news, Peru's tourism minister, Jose Luis Silva, announced that the Californian couple, Garrett Han and Jamie Neal, who were reported missing, have been found after more than a month. The couple was found traveling around Ecuador. Safety, however, has been an issue here in Peru since a gang known as the Coyotes have been attacking residents in broad daylight. Although this gang has recently been arrested, many residents still question the safety of the country. This is Karina reporting live from Peru. Back to you at the studio.
Wow. We just received breaking news. President Hugo Chavez has lost his battle with cancer and has passed away earlier today. Now we go to Rosanna bringing us reactions from the streets for this terrible news. Rosanna?
The country's vice president, Nicolás Maduro, has announced the death of President Hugo Chavez. His government has been supportive and optimistic throughout these turbulent times, insisting that he has fully recovered and has allowed him to win a fourth six-year term as president. Chavez's health rapidly declined, returning to Cuba in late November, followed by an additional operation in December. His recovery has been plagued by a series of lung infections and respiratory failures, most likely a result of an immune system depressed by chemotherapy. Although he has given his fair share of punches, President Hugo Chavez has unfortunately lost the fight to cancer. Here we have Maria and her husband Pablo. What do you guys think about Chavez's death?
This man sowed hatred and division among Venezuela. I can't say that I'm happy, but I'm not sad either.
It brings tears to my eyes because he was a good person.
Come on!
I grew up in Venezuela and he did so much for the people, and I don't know what to say. It's very bad. I see people angry about the situation, but he was a good man. He did a lot for the community, and it's sad to see him dead. I'm sorry, I can't speak no more.
Here I am live reporting outside of the Capitol building in Caracas, Venezuela. Back to the studio.
That's it for today's evening news. From Montclair, New Jersey, I'm Melissa Fries.
I'm Dave Vallejo.
I'm Andre Slima. You stay classy, Montclair.
Can we cut?
That's the cut.
Hatred and devastation. Oh my gosh.
Sorry, it's not
The 7 individuals. Sorry.
Melissa, since his last public appearance. Ooh, sorry. Can we go again?
Yep, just go.
Damn, I messed up.